Okay, so we're just going to pray before we present our project. Dear Jesus, I thank you so much for this opportunity that we have to learn more about leadership and to learn more about you through this. God, I just pray against any nerves or just anxiety about presenting a project, Lord. I just pray for peace over everyone who's speaking, God, and that you anoint our words, Lord, and that you give us clarity while we're communicating. And I just pray that you bring recollection to things that we rehearsed, God, to things that we prepared, Lord, that all our hard work, God, is not in vain, Lord, that you just show up in this moment and that we learn more about you. In Jesus' name, amen. So Callie is going to be our first presenter today. Callie?
Hi, I'm Callie with group number 4, and today we're going to be talking about leadership. What is leadership, one might ask? Well, leadership is the ability to direct an individual or group of individuals toward a common goal. Some leaders are bossy and can cause one to do bare minimum, and some influence us to perform at the best of our ability. If you think you are leading and turn around to see no one following, then you are just taking a walk. These are the wise words of Benjamin Hooks. This is a meme from The Princess Bride. It says, "You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means." Leadership. What are some good characteristics of good leadership? There's 8 characteristics. Good leaders are good coaches. They empower teams and do not micromanage. They care about team members and their success, and they orient themselves to create results. They listen and share information with their team. They inspire team members to develop themselves, and they have a clear mission and vision on how to execute it. They possess skills to complete the assignment. Self-leadership. Well, before we can become a better leader that models those characteristics well, we must learn how to lead ourselves. Self-leadership is the development of your own personal leadership style and following it. How does one develop their own leadership? Well, great leaders are not born, but made. If we desire to improve our leadership, we must become hungry to grow. If you want it, you must work to develop it. There was this one time where I had a job, and I had it for about 6 months, and I was loving it, going to work every day, until one day the management decided to just start talking terribly and very disrespectful and rude, and I just decided to quit because I didn't think that was a good environment for me to be in. I just think leadership is so important and definitely influences the way someone acts or behaves. Well, thank you for listening, and now it's Gabriella Hunter to present.
Hello, like she said, my name is Gabriella Hunter, and I'm going to be talking about ways to develop your leadership. So you can develop your leadership by making decisions and taking risks. Never be afraid to fail. Learn from other leaders' strengths and weaknesses. Most older leaders want to help younger leaders become better. Ask them questions about leadership and their approach to leading. The kinds of leaders are development game. So leadership grows as the people one leads get better. Development leaders motivate people by nurturing their strengths and weaknesses of their followers. Typically, this process takes time and can be painful, but produces better team members and organization. Lead by example with their own development. TED Talks, books, seminars, podcasts, and evaluations can help develop one's leadership. In cheerleading, before we would practice, we would always pray, and I definitely think it would motivate us to be better cheerleaders and to just do everything with motivation and God's supernatural presence. So I think TED Talks, books, and sermons really can boost your leadership skills. And then overload principle. So the overload principle is the principle that comes from weightlifting and athletic training, adding more and more weight in order to increase strength and progress. This principle is implemented in leadership when the leader is developing themselves or their team members. If one does not increase responsibility or authority, then the leader/team member are being static. Leaders that do not delegate tasks or assignments to the people they lead do not develop them and put weight on the bar. Leaders should also be there to support team members when they fail, much like a spotter in weight training. Missional leaders continually bringing the vision or mission or goal of the groups to mind. They often reiterate what is the why behind the what we do. This leadership style is essential in long progress projects or repetitive projects. Casting vision of the mission can influence the team members to complete assignments with excellence. The most pathetic person in the world is someone who has sight but no vision. Helen Keller. Leaders must carry the vision for their team, especially when it has not come into friction. For cheer, our whole motivation was the work is worth it. So every time we would go do something, perform or anything, we'd say the work is worth it, the work is worth it. And now I'm going to introduce Liz.
Hi, I'm Liz. I'm going to be talking about the 3 common leadership styles. The first one is positional leadership. Positional leadership is the lowest and most common form of leadership. So this would be anyone given a title. For example, your boss, your manager, where you work, the person over you that has that title. Just because they have that title does not mean that they're bad at what they're doing. But so their authority is based on the title or position that they hold. Team members follow because of authority, not because of their vision or influence. They follow because they're the people in front of them, and we are told to follow the people up who are above us, or else we'll get fired, or whatever else they're leading us in. Work tends not to be done to the best of ability, but to just enough that it is satisfactory. Following a leader that doesn't give anything but just direction, can be hard to follow sometimes, and it can make it less passionate when you're doing your work. And so authoritarian leadership is a style of positional leadership. It is characterized by directive activity without group input. This style is beneficial in emergencies and in military type situations. For example, if a house starts catching on fire, we don't have time to sit around and talk about how everybody feels about what should take place. We need somebody that's going to step up and say, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to do it now. And so this kind of leadership is beneficial in places like this, but over time repeatedly happening over and over again in places that aren't militarian or emergencies, it can become toxic and hard to follow. A leader should never stay at the style of authoritarian leadership besides just in those certain aspects. The next type of leadership is laissez-faire leadership. A laissez-faire leader does not give direction or leadership structure, but provides a hands-off approach to leading the group. So this type of leader is they more let the group do what they feel like they want to do. This is kind of more fun in an aspect of like sports sometimes, like young kids sports. You don't want to make it too like, we got to do this, but more it creates a fun atmosphere and less pressure. Group members decide what they are going to do and complete their tasks without much insight or direction from the leader. This style can be beneficial in groups that have a set system. So over here we have another meme, because we love memes in our millennial generation. So me, a transformational leader. The people need inspiration. Inner me. They should motivate themselves. Laissez-faire. I relate with that. The last form of leadership is the democratic leader. Democratic leadership is a leader who delegates decision making to the group itself. So we are in a democratic country, and so that's why we have like the House and the Senate, because we hear input from the people. It's about what the people want. And so the whole group makes a decision, and just like the other team members, the leader has a voice as well. So the leader kind of steps down and doesn't take on the authoritative leadership style, and is more of, we're all equals here, and I'm just here to make sure that a decision is made. This style is accepted by others and is accepted by others easily, and is certainly is and in a certain setting is effective. Examples. So, first of all, we're going to talk about Matt, who is in a positional leadership position. Matt is a manager at a coffee shop and is constantly giving orders to his employees. He often notices that he has to remind people to do what he has asked them, and then they tend not to listen, which leads him to remind them that he is the manager. The baristas never do more work than they have to on a shift, even though Matt reminds them about it. So you'll see in this context, the employees feel as though feel annoyed with their leadership because they feel like they're being barked at. They're just only being told what to do, and they're not actually being taken care of. So it makes them not even want to help out the company. It makes them more just feel like, let me just get the job done and get paid for it. Next is laissez-faire leadership, and we're going to talk about Dave. So Dave coaches a youth soccer team and does not plan out his practices. He usually lets the team decide what they want to do at practice and says that he is about just having fun. The team members decide their positions and conflict arises. They have to solve it. And when conflict arises, they have to solve it themselves. Dave just wants them to decide and have fun without his guidance. So in a context like this, sometimes it can get a little bit messy, but this will also allow the other team members to rise up and gain leadership as they choose to help others decide and step up. So the next part is a democratic leader. Sarah is the head of the party planning committee. They are planning Matt's birthday, and they all decide on a theme. The group wants to throw an 80s theme party, and they are getting directions from Party City. Sarah lets the committee decide what to buy and how much to spend. So, as you can see, Sarah's more of an organizer of what's going on, and she's not saying, this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it. She's saying, you guys decide, I'm just here to help out. And so, next, we're going to have Abby come speak about situational leadership.
I'm Abby, and now we're going to be talking about situational leadership. Okay, situational leadership is a leadership style that adapts to match the needs of the group members. And leadership should always be focused on styling their leadership to the needs of the group. Okay, so there are 4 stages of situational leadership. The first one is called directing. Directing is a leadership stage in which the leader makes most of the decisions for the staff members. This style is needed when the staff is new and the leader makes decisions and provides clear vision without tasks and assignments. Information comes from the top down. Okay. Second stage is coaching. Coaching is a leadership stage in which the leader will not direct the staff member, but rather analyze their weakness and offer correction. This stage is, in order to be successful, requires a desire from the team members to want to grow from the correction. So they want feedback and to know in case they're doing something wrong, they want to know how to do it better. It's a two-way street, and both the leader and the team member / followers grow if the mindset is correct for both parties. Third stage. The third stage is called supporting. Supporting is a leadership stage in which the leader watches as the follower makes decisions and offers support when necessary, but also allows the follower to choose what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. The leader is there to help motivate the follower and encourage them when needed. And the follower needs encouragement or motivation rather than direction from the leader. And this is the second to last stage of situational leadership. The last one is called delegating. Delegating is a leadership stage in which the leader watches as the follower makes decisions and offers support when necessary, but allows the follower to choose what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. This stage requires an enormous amount of trust from the leader or to the follower or team member, and many leaders struggle most in this stage for fear of failure or preparation of the team member. The follower is now responsible for informing the leader of progress, challenges, and success. So recap. Again, the first stage is called directing, and again, that is where the leader is making all the decisions. The second stage is coaching, which again, the leader is giving some control to the team members, followers, but the main focus is to develop the team and better their work skills. Third stage is supporting. The leader focuses on motivating the followers rather than directing them. And the fourth stage is called delegating, the last one. It's where the leader gives the follower the responsibility and offers little to no support. So by this stage, the followers of the team are supposed to know what they're supposed to be doing after they have gotten their correction, and they should know what to do by now. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker, which is going to be Ashton.
Hi, my name is Ashton. Today I'm going to be talking about servant leadership, and this is probably the coolest, probably most that I'm most passionate about when it comes to leadership. Here's, of course, a couple memes, because you always see memes when talking about leadership, of course. So here's our first one from The Office. It says, "Would I rather be feared or loved? Easy. Both. I'd be able to be afraid of how much they love me." Okay, and here's like a little more serious example of servant leadership. Here's another type of leadership that is going to be more, I'm going to tell people what to do, which is not servant leadership. Here's the boss up here and his little slaves pulling him around. Now here's an example of servant leadership where the leader is working and he's down and working with the people that he is leading. And so here's the next slide. So servant leadership. So servant leadership is a leadership style that focuses on serving first before leading. Many first thoughts are about Christianity or ministry, but on the contrary, many secular leadership authors write about servant leadership and its benefits. This style can be observed through the leader's actions and attitude. A couple examples that I wanted to briefly mention of servant leaders would be people like Jesus. People like Jesus are not just mentioned in Christian history, but also around the world. He's acknowledged as an amazing servant leader, someone who served the people around him by healing, by miraculous works, and by teaching them what it is to be a better person. And another example that I love is Martin Luther King Jr. He was one that didn't just tell people this is how you need to live, but he sat down and he lived it. He lived out the actions that he taught, and so he changed history. And so here's the second. We have some concepts of leadership. Okay, number one, commitment to growth. This commitment is not just to themselves, but to their followers. They understand the better they get, the healthier the company or organization gets. Concept two, listening and understanding. Servant leaders listen rather than talk and understand rather than wanting to be understood. These leaders are secure in their leadership, that they are able to listen to opposing views from their team, and they also create an atmosphere where their team feels safe enough to disagree with their leader. Third concept, empathy and acceptance. This is probably my favorite. They recognize that just like their followers, they are broken people as well. When mistakes happen, they discuss the issue and not the person. They love their followers and teams in the midst of brokenness. The fourth concept, healing. Focus on their followers and see what their needs, when their needs change, and how to help them achieve restoration. Concept 5, foresight and awareness. They look at the organization, staff, and mission to make decisions for the future. They are aware of current problems and concerns, but they also predict future problems. Many of this decision making comes from guidance of the Holy Spirit and their gut instincts while being aware of the current information. 6th concept is persuasiveness. They have influence and they have been given permission to lead those around them. Honesty, knowledgeable, and competent are some of the reasons how you are persuasive, but persuasion is never manipulation. It is leading by giving vision for the direction you and your team are going that causes them to want to follow you. 7, building community. Allow everyone to feel comfortable in communicating with the group and in the group. One way to build community is by social events outside of work or outside of the organization. And it's also helpful to know what styles are on your team and how you can appreciate them in the way they appreciate it.
Focus of leaders.
First focus. Leaders must focus on the issue, not the person or the group. Focusing on the problem allows one to come to a logical and beneficial conclusion. When one focuses on the person and not the issue, the confrontation becomes emotional and hurtful. Coming to a solution is unlikely. The person who could be associated with a problem, if discussed in a way that they are not the problem, could be supple to the leader with beneficial information of why there is a problem. All right, next I'm going to introduce Sabina. She is going to talk about our second focus.
Hi, okay, so our second focus. Listening to everyone is the second focus, and it is important for leaders to listen to those that may be harder to hear. So situations where people are harder to hear, maybe it's someone in your group that's shy, they typically are more reserved, they're not as outgoing, or they may be in a lower position, they may be in a position that they're not naturally heard, they might not be a leader. They might not be a leader, they might not be in the management position, so they might be harder to notice. Many great ideas are not known because it comes from quieter, less popular, less dominant, or less successful people. In order to find solutions to the problems or to avoid issues, one should try to have a system of the ideas or solutions can be addressed or discussed. So one helpful way that this can be done is by having a suggestion box, by doing a forum, by doing an online quiz. It can be really helpful for people to do surveys so that you can have suggestions on how to lead. When creating a plan, a leader should focus on getting input from all departments involved. So say if you were starting up a coffee shop, it'd be important not only to address the landlord of the issue, it'd be important to talk to people who supply the coffee beans, the baristas, the management. It's important to just cover your bases on all of them. So cohesion and groupthink. Cohesion is when all group members are in unity and going the same direction to reach an expected goal. It represents itself as a group that has a connection that helps them ignore temporary irritations or distractions for a long-term goal or result. When cohesion is the goal, it can lead to groupthink. Groupthink is the desire for anonymity that takes precedence over the need to seek out all possible answers. Groupthink requires pressure to conform to the group's vision. It can look like ignoring the problem to keep unity among the group. So at first this sounds really good. Cohesion sounds like a good thing that every team needs, but it can actually lead to some pretty destructive things. In this next slide, we see some of the issues with groupthink. The reason groupthink prospers is because the dissenter is afraid of going against the dynamic leader or popular opinion. Sometimes there's also consequences to going against groupthink. Leaders must create an atmosphere where questions, concerns are accepted and appreciated. So we can see these examples in situations like Pearl Harbor, where the Japanese government, they all agreed that the U.S. needed to be destroyed to win the war, and that they didn't care whether the U.S. was involved or not, that they agreed that they were bad and that they wanted to destroy this. That's why Pearl Harbor occurred. Watergate is another example where the U.S. government was actually the issue where they wanted to cover something up, and they were all on the same page, and no one went against it and said, why are we covering up something that's wrong? So that's another example. And then the final, one of the other examples is Jonestown Massacre, which is where we get the saying, don't drink the Kool-Aid. So it's actually, a lot of groupthink can be cults. And so the Jamestown Massacre occurred when the cult leader encouraged all of his followers to drink a iodinized Kool-Aid, which then led to all of them dying.
and no one ever said, hey, like, why are we drinking this Kool-Aid? Because they didn't want to go against the leader. We can also see this in church settings, which is a big issue. We can see this when a dynamic senior pastor is afraid to take any information from his elders or from his staff. So we can see this in all settings. Okay, symptoms of groupthink. One is the illusion of invulnerability. It's the belief that the group is more powerful than they are and therefore are not susceptible to an attack. The second is the belief in the inherent mortality of the group. Is the belief that since the group is good, their goals and decisions must be good also. The third is an outgoing stereotype. Is when anyone not in the group is perceived as the enemy and is assumed to not understand the situation. 4. Collective rationalization causes the group to ignore the warnings about their decisions. The fifth one is self-censorship, means the group members minimize their personal doubts and any counter-arguments. The sixth one is allusion to anonymity, is the belief that silence is consent because no one shares contrary information. 7. Direct pressure on dissenters, happens when group members coerce those who have objections into supporting leaders and not making waves. And 8 is self-appointed mind guards, are people who decide to shield the group from adversary information. Helpful tips for leaders to avoid groupthink. As a leader, let the group reach big decisions twice. See if the group will come up with the same solution the second time. This is helpful to make sure that your group can actually make choices without you. The second one is don't make the decision by yourself. As a leader, you need to make sure that the decision is made by the group, not just your own ideas. It's important to talk to your team and ask them what they think about it. 3. Arrange meetings to have without you, the leader being present. You should know that the meeting is happening, but you don't need to attend. This allows the group to share more freely. 4. Appoint someone to be the devil's advocate. If you're not familiar with this term, it means that people in the group are assigned to challenge the proposed solution. They are to stay level-headed and unemotional about the plan. They're allowed to ask the hard questions without being chastised by the group. They can look for problems without retribution. 5. Divide the larger group into smaller groups and see if they reach the same conclusions. Many members might ask the question in a group of 7 that they want to ask in a group of 25 or more. So this is very beneficial, especially for big projects that you're pushing toward to get the team comfortable into a place that they feel like they can talk about it. I particularly like the one about having a meeting where the leader isn't present, because I think sometimes we're afraid to bring our opinion about something, or we're afraid to go against something because we're afraid the leader will judge us or that there'll be consequences to going against their vision. So General Patton has an excellent quote, and it says, if everyone is thinking alike, then someone is not thinking. And he means by this that if we all have the exact same idea and nobody is opposing it, are we really thinking about the idea, or are we just going along with what the leader has said? So why is good leadership important? Everyone in a place of leadership has a responsibility to answer to God for how they lead. Good leaders are responsive to what God is saying and their followers are saying. They serve the needs of those you lead around you. They serve the needs of those you lead and you that are around you. Whether you are a follower or a leader, be a good one, not corrupt or deceitful. I think it's important to remember that in order to be a good leader, we also need to be good followers. And being a good follower can mean that we don't talk bad about the leader, that we respect them, we respect their authority. And then being a good leader can mean that we love our people, that we want to restore them, that we want to be better to them. And so we have just finished our conclusion on leadership, the different styles of leadership, the main focus of leadership, and the different conflicts that can arise in leadership. And so this is our works cited sheet. I took a lot of information from How Successful Lead by John Maxwell, and then our assigned book, Becoming a Better Communicator. Thank you so much. We're done.
Woo!
Asher, what's your password? Asher, what's your password?
Your booty,
It's actually really long.
Okay, well, hurry up and do it so that we can